We don't want any competition. And that's when she went on the road and said, I will fight this battle. And so we have to love her. Sojourner Truth, we have to love this mother who was actually would in any other circumstance been considered one of the great leaders of this country because of her oratory and because of her brilliance and because of her lack of fear. Sojourner Truth spoke two, sometimes people said 3 languages. She grew up speaking German and Dutch, but she spoke English as well. But she spoke Ebonics also, and this was one of the great characters in our history. Harriet Tubman, to me, the greatest person who ever lived in the United States. There's no other person who did more than she did, who also tried to advance human rights more than anybody. 700 people she rescued at one time from slavery. 700. She was the first woman military leader during the Civil War. The first woman. And she went to South Carolina and was able to steal away 700 enslaved Africans to freedom. Plus the 300 that she had stolen from here in Maryland and Delaware to bring to Philadelphia. This was an economic attack on the system of slavery. So you take 700 people. Back in those days, they were charging a lot for an enslaved African, and she stole them away. Then no, I'm going to, if necessarily you go broke, because I'm taking these people, right? This was Harriet Tubman. Mary McLeod Bethune, who saw black people black men working to build railroads in Florida and to build highways. She saw them and she saw their children on the side of the road, sitting in dirt with no food. But the men were working. She said, this is not right. I'll build a school for these children. And she went around getting as many pennies and dollars as she could to build Bethune-Cookman School. And you go to that school today, they still have the room where she used to receive guests. This is the incredible genius of Mary McLeod Bethune, who gave us her last will and testament. And that last will and testament, she told us that she left us courage. You see, this is what I leave you. This is the kind of people that we have always said. These are the mothers of the African American population. Fannie Lou Hamer, who was sick and tired of being sick and tired. And is this America? She said. What America is this? Is this the way America ought to be? Is this a way America treats people? What is this? They beat her almost to death. This is a true fact. Now they got a statue of her in Atlantic City, where she went to the Democratic National Convention in 1960 and gave a speech on television that electrified the nation. This was a lady without college education. She just had personal, ordinary human dignity. And she refused to be in a situation of inequality. That's what I always say. And I say that today. And I told the people in Brazil the same thing. I said, one thing I know, I don't know much about Trump or how long he's going to be in office. But I know one thing: African Americans are resilient, and hey, we going to be here, and we going to be through this because we see through this, we understand this, and not only do we understand. I mean, we understand what they did to Ross Baraka yesterday. Yeah. We understand. We saw this with our own eyes, right? No, so we got to prepare for that. We know that. We understand that. But that's the thing that you got to fight. If you don't fight, you've already lost. You got to stand against that, you see? You have to have principles. What are your principles? What are you standing for? Ella Baker. Sometimes you'll see pictures of Ella Baker, and you may not know Ella Baker, but Ella Baker was the leader. She was the one who helped to organize the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee. I was the chair of the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee at UCLA, of our campus chapter. That's how I first met Kwame Ture, H. Rap Brown, Marion Barry, John Lewis, because they all came out of that organization. That was the organization. And I had come to that organization from working with another courageous woman whose name I don't have here, and that's Diane Nash. Diane Nash had led the student movement in Nashville, Tennessee when I was in high school, and I marched with her against segregation and racist institutions like the movie theater and the restaurant in Nashville. But this is, and then there's Daisy Bates. Never forget Daisy Bates, who stood up against the governor of Arkansas, and the racists in Arkansas who didn't want children to go to school and didn't want African Americans to go to college in Arkansas. But Daisy Bates was an incredible speaker, and she was a very powerful woman in terms of her courage and her ability to speak. And then we never forget Rosa Parks, because Rosa Parks is the electric spark for us. There were other people before Rosa Parks who did the same thing, by the way. But Rosa Parks is the one that really sort of spurred the movement, sparked the movement, in the sense that we then had people like Martin Luther King Jr. and Fred Gray and other people to come out and fight for it. And then, of course, the great, eloquent Barbara Jordan, who went into politics and gave one of the great political speeches of all time. So there were all those people. I'm bringing it down to the end now, and I'll just mention a couple of people here: Ona Judge and Janie Blackwell. I want to mention Ona Judge because you need to know Ona Judge. Diane Turner, one of the great historians of our day and the director of the Bloxon Afro-American collection, has talked and written about Ona Judge. How many of you have ever heard, in this audience, ever heard of Ona Judge? A few, okay. So Ona Judge was enslaved to George Washington. And George Washington, when he lived here in Philadelphia, he would bring his enslaved Africans from Virginia, which was his home, and he would keep them in a horse stable behind his house, actually on 6th and Market. And Ona Judge, had been enslaved to that family, working for Martha Washington, the wife of George Washington, since she was 15. But when she got around 20, 21, 22, she just decided she didn't want to be a slave anymore. She had no interest in being enslaved. And so what did Ona Judge do? Every year, when he was here, Pennsylvania had a law